What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton left the Ferrari engineers speechless on the last day of testing in Barcelona? Not because of his speed, but because of something much deeper, something that not even in Maranello they expected. What did the SF26 telemetry data really reveal, and why could it be Ferrari's secret weapon for 2026? That time was not only the fastest of the week, beating George Russell by almost a tenth. It was the turning point in the narrative that until then dominated Ferrari's story in 2026. Because until that moment, the story was that of a team full of questions. Questions about your new car, the SF26, developed under the regulatory revolution that eliminated the MGUH and multiplied the minimum weight. Questions about energy performance in real running. Questions about whether Hamilton, at 41, could still contribute something that Charles Leclerc, with his youth and knowledge of his surroundings, could no longer offer. But 63 laps were enough to answer them all. And the answer was not a simple yes. It was much more than expected. The fastest lap was the icing on the cake, yes, but the truly revealing thing was happening on the telemetry monitors, where the Ferrari engineers watched in disbelief at something that rarely happens in a preseason test. The complete validation of the digital simulation model. 4 months, Ferrari had worked in CFD, in a simulator, in a wind tunnel, trying to build a car that not only adjusted to the new regulations, but also anticipated its own evolution. But no model alone can replace reality. When Hamilton rolled on the track and the data began to fit millimetrically with that of the virtual environment, the engineers understood that they were facing something different. The driver not only adapted to the car began to live through the driver. And this was no accident. Hamilton did not go out on the track to do miles. He came out with a purpose. Each lap had a specific intention. Evaluate a suspension configuration, verify the thermal behavior of the brakes, validate an energy deployment pattern. With each pit stop, he delivered more than feedback. He delivered a deeply structured technical reading, which contrasted and challenged Maranello's theoretical work. Some of the engineers present stated that they had never received such structured, direct, and useful information on a day of testing. And they didn't say it with passive admiration. They said it with a mixture of euphoria and responsibility, knowing that what Hamilton had just done forced the entire team to raise its standards. At that moment, the atmosphere at Ferrari changed. He went from cautious skepticism to contained enthusiasm. Not because they believed they had found the champion car, that only the stopwatch will know in real competition, but because for the first time they felt that they were working with a tool and a driver aligned, completely synchronized. In Formula One, that feeling is pure gold. The SF26, until then a theoretical concept validated only on screens, was coming to life. And he did so in the hands of a rejuvenated, meticulous, and committed Hamilton, who had decided not only to lead with experience but also with data. Lots of data. Too many to ignore. And so, while the sun began to set over Maranello and the trucks were preparing for disassembly, in the red-painted corner of the paddock, a certainty filtered through cables, laptops, and still hot cars. Ferrari no longer had a star driver. He had a technical reference, a builder of the future. And that, in this sport, is worth more than 1,000 simulations. Because when reality surpasses the model, you are no longer in the testing phase. You are in a phase of revolution. In Formula One, lap times catch the public's attention, but it is telemetry that turns the wheels of success. And that's exactly what happened during the final day of testing in Barcelona with Lewis Hamilton and the SF26. While the paddock was focused on times and headlines, the real protagonists, the Ferrari engineers, were absorbed in a completely different story, the data that the Briton was generating lap after lap. A story that, line by line, began to transform their understanding of the car they had built. From the first stint of the day, Hamilton made it clear that he was not there to simply ride. Each block of laps was meticulously designed to analyze key aspects of the car's behavior. The information it provided went far beyond the typical feedback of sensations behind the wheel. Each comment was supported by clear patterns in the telemetry, and these patterns revealed something no one expected to see so early in the year. A complete reading of the SF26 as if it had already been in their hands for months. Engineers began to notice abnormal consistency in their long runs. As the laps went by, the tires maintained a surprisingly low level of degradation, especially on the C3 and C2 compounds. Hamilton was not only maintaining the pace, but he was doing so with controlled progressive wear, which is extremely rare in long test simulations. The car seemed to maintain an optimal thermal window on each axle, without requiring abrupt adjustments to the differential or aggressive changes in downforce. That stability in thermal management, validated with temperature sensors in tires and brakes, sparked an immediate internal technical debate. Had it been Hamilton who adapted to the car, or was it the car that responded better to Hamilton's style than to that of any other driver who had tested it? One of the aspects most discussed by engineers was its ability to handle the energy deployment of the new hybrid system of 2026, especially the MGU-K with its 350 kilowatts of power. Most of the drivers were having difficulties with the famous clipping, that moment when the battery cannot continue delivering energy and the car loses speed in the middle of a straight line. But in the Hamilton runs there was not a single hint of clipping under long acceleration. The analysis revealed that its way of modulating the accelerator and adjusting the braking distribution allowed the electrical system to be recharged and discharged with almost perfect efficiency. This not only increased the average lap speed, but also provided an insider's view of how the SF20SIXS energy strategy should be designed for real racing conditions. The telemetry also captured a unique phenomenon at corner exits. While other drivers waited until they had full traction to apply power, Hamilton began to open the throttle earlier than planned, dynamically shifting the center of gravity towards the rear axle. This generated greater grip without compromising the stability of the car, which translated into superior traction and fewer steering wheel corrections. This pattern, consistent for more than 50 laps, reconfigured Ferrari's hypotheses about the interaction between motor mapping and rear suspension behavior. It was as if the SF26 was showing a hidden facet that only emerged under the control of a pilot with that technical sensitivity. Another fact that caught the team by surprise was the absolute consistency between the behavior on the track and the simulator projections. Reality coincided millimetrically with the digital model. From lateral pressure in mid-corners to loads on the front axle during prolonged braking, everything responded with unnerving precision. This validation is not common even under ideal conditions. At Ferrari they called it total correlation, and it was described as one of the most satisfying moments of the entire development phase of the SF26. Because what Hamilton had done was not only confirmed that the car worked, he had eliminated the margin of doubt between theory and reality. To understand the magnitude of this advantage, it is necessary to look at the big picture. With the new technical regulations that came into force this year, all power units have gained mass. The replacement of the MGU-H with a more powerful MGU-K 350 kilowatts compared to the previous 120 kilowatts implies not only an increase in power, but also in structural weight. Additionally, new battery packs and associated cooling systems have added complexity and burden to the design. Many teams were forced to compensate for this excess weight by sacrificing aerodynamic efficiency or reducing structural safety areas to the limit of the regulations. Ferrari didn't do it. They managed to stay light without compromising either rigidity or reliability. Maranello engineers worked on a rare synergy between chassis and power unit. They completely redesigned the monocoque, incorporating a new ultra-high-strength carbon fiber alloy that allowed them to reduce mass without losing impact resistance. They adjusted the design of the gearbox to integrate it more closely with the engine block, minimizing friction losses and shortening the distance between the car's center of gravity and the rear axle. All this not only gave them a lighter car, but also a better balanced one. Because it's not just what the SF26 showed. That's what he hinted at. A hidden potential that is just beginning to unfold. A rare balance between power, lightness, efficiency, and reliability. And above all, a clear direction. For the first time in years, Ferrari seems to have a direction not built on illusions or marketing, but on data, technical validation, and a figure capable of taking that vision to the end. Do you think that what we saw in Barcelona was the beginning of a real revolution at Ferrari? Or was it simply another preseason illusion, a spark that could go out when the real demands of the race arrive? Is Hamilton really in a position to write the last great chapter of his career in red? Or does this redemption script still have twists to discover? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.